Hello and welcome back to How to Homeschool in High School. The goal of this podcast is to educate on what homeschooling truly is and to encourage and equip you to take ownership of your education. So if you're a high schooler, if you're a middle schooler, and you're looking to take ownership of your education, this is the podcast for you. Welcome back to all of my listeners. And if you're new here, hello. So this episode is just a continuation of what we worked on last week, which was starting the first few steps into your homeschooling journey. This is going to cover step 2 and step 3. Which brings me to a very important point. For anyone who is new, I highly suggest that you go back and listen to the previous episode where we discuss step number 1 to beginning your homeschooling journey. And in fact, it is imperative that you listen to that first episode to understand some of the things that are going to happen today. You need step 1 to have step 2. So there's no shortcuts here. We need to make sure we cover every single step on this journey. Just to review, and in review, what we talked about last week, which was your homeschooling why and why it's so important. And between whenever you listen to last episode and today's episode, that hopefully you have kind of got an idea of your why in your brain, at least semi-formulated, as it's going to be important from this point on to kind of have an idea about that. All right, so let's get started with step number 2, which is plugging in. For those of you who have listened to the previous episode, you know I have talked about this before, and I talked about it a few times last week. But it's so important that I decided to give it its own point and to talk about it some more. So let's talk about it some more. So what does plugging in really mean for homeschooling? Well, and why is it necessary? Well, think about plugging in something to an outlet. What happens? Well, you insert the cord, the plug into the outlet, and then power starts to flow from the outlet to your object to get your desired outcome, right? So a homeschooler without an outlet is about as useful as a lamp without a plug. Okay. What I'm trying to say here with this metaphor is you have to be plugged in. It is imperative. The best way to kill a healthy homeschooling environment is isolation. Like I've been saying before, homeschooling is lonely at times. It's a little bit isolating, so you cannot cut yourself off from the outside world and just bunker down in your home. That's not what homeschooling is, and it's not going to benefit you in any way. Probably will only harm you. That's actually a fact. So you need to connect yourself with other homeschoolers. And it's step 2 for a reason, because getting acquainted with homeschoolers in your area will extremely help you when discovering your why. Why do you want to become like these people? Well, you have to kind of get to know them first. So make sure to find a local homeschooling group near you. It's important that it's local. You can have a global or countrywide, homeschooling groups. I have a few of them. That's totally cool. But make sure that you have one near you, because you'll see why it's so important in a minute. More specifically, when you find your homeschooling group, make sure to locate the veteran homeschoolers. Those are the homeschoolers who have been homeschooling for 5 years plus. I'm just made up that requirement. It could be 4 years plus, whatever. It's just homeschoolers that have been homeschooling for a long time. And that might even be their whole entire, childhood. Because you want to get their opinion on curriculums. You want to get their opinion on how to work around state regulations and laws. It's extremely important. I know when we moved here to Pennsylvania, we went to a homeschool outreach event, which, we're not the most, what would you say? We're not extroverted. Thank you. We're not extroverted. We are very much introverted family. So going to homeschooling groups events, especially when you're new, is not our favorite thing in the world. But we did it, which was good, because we realized that isolation is the best way to kill homeschooling. So we went to this event, and my mom got in contact with these they've been homeschooling for a long period of time, have 3 kids out of college, and 1 graduating from high school, those kind of homeschoolers. So, and they were instrumental. Mom was just like, what about this? And they were like, oh, we do this. Oh, that's great. That works for us. You obviously have to try it out for yourself, but they are so helpful because then you don't have to figure out everything on your own. So make sure to find the veteran homeschoolers and connect with them as well. They will be instrumental to your success. So how do you practically plug in? Well, there's a few things you can do. If you already know someone that's homeschooled you already know them in your area, ask them if they know of any homeschooling groups, teen events, co-ops in your area, and then just start there. Maybe tag along with them for one of their events, get to know about their routine, what their day looks like, all that stuff. If you do not know anyone or any resources in your area, you're gonna have to break out your old laptop and do some old-fashioned research. I'm gonna try to make it as easy as I can for you and to give you a great place to start. It's organization called HSLDA. And they're really incredible. And I mean incredible. I'm not joking. They're like one of the greatest homeschooling resources out there. So just a round of applause for all the HSLDA people. You're doing great. It's amazing. I even read articles from there, and I've been homeschooled for 7 years. So it's not just like a step. It's just not for new homeschoolers. It's also for experienced homeschoolers as well. HSLDA stands for Homeschool, HS, Legal Defense Association. And their tagline straight from their website is making homeschooling possible. So, it's right there in their tagline. They're awesome. So if the name of their website, which I will link below, is hslda.org, and I'm actually going to go there right now and kind of walk you through how to find what I want you to find. So at the top of their page, they have this little bar next to their logo and their tagline. It has this little thing called Get Started, and you just hover over that or press on it and then go to Explore Homeschooling. So I'm going to press on it. Nice little video. You can watch that if you want. And scroll down a little bit until you get to 7 simple steps to start homeschooling. That's kind of a tongue twister, 7 simple steps to start homeschooling. And you're going to go to step 1, which is connect with parents who are already homeschooling. You might not be a parent, you might be a parent, but this is going to connect you with homeschooling groups near your area. So press on that, and then it's going to take you to another page. It's like the article for 7 simple steps to start homeschooling. And then there's this blue little button here in the last sentence of the connect with parents who are already homeschooling blurb. Press on that here, and it should take you to another page, which is search groups. So I'm sure if you don't want to do all that crazy stuff, you can just go up to the search button at the top of the page and type in search groups. And I'm sure that would come up as well. So you have this page, find a homeschooling group. You can put in your zip code. So I'm going to put in my zip code. There we are. And I'm going to search. You can also do keyword search, which is pretty awesome. Let's see what comes up. So, literally the first one is my homeschool group, which is awesome. Pennsylvania Christian Home Educators, literally right there. And then look, okay, so if you scroll down some more, depending on what pops up for you, they give you co-ops as well, classical conversations. There are a ton near me. We're going to go through that as well in a few further episodes from here when we talk about co-ops. But they also give you information about co-ops as well. Really awesome research. Okay, that's step number 1. That's option number 1 for you if you do not know anything about the homeschooling in your area. So try that out. Very helpful research. Thank you, HSLDA, again. And then the second thing you can do, or the first thing, depending on what you want, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, go to social media accounts, whatever, you're connected with, and search there. Go your state or your district or your country, and then search in homeschool groups and see what comes up. I recently came across an Instagram account that you should really check out. It's called @world_homeschooler. So like I mentioned before, it's a great resource to get connected with worldwide homeschoolers, but it cannot be your only one. You need to make sure you're local as well. But I have really enjoyed engaging with their posts and seeing their posts and all that. It's a really cool community of homeschoolers from middle school to high school. So please check that out. I will link it below. Really fun. So there is a lot of, the internet is amazing, and there's so many resources out there right now for homeschoolers. So make sure you get specific and get a geographical for your area and find your group. Step 1, have your homeschool why, discover your homeschool why. Step 2, plug yourself into a local homeschooling community. Step 3, research homeschooling. And I know there is more, it's more research. Yeah, I know. You guys are probably loving me right now. But don't get too excited here. Bear with me. I will try to make this as easy as possible for you. So let me explain first, like I said in the last episode, why is really important. So let me explain why research is so important. As I mentioned above, every state and country has different homeschooling laws and regulations and, rules. So before you homeschool, you're going to have some idea of what that looks like for your state and your country. I suggest you get a notebook or a piece of paper or something and keep track of everything you find there so you have a good plan, a good checklist for what would be required for your state to start homeschooling. So I'm going to give you a list of research items, things to pay attention to when you're researching. These can also be answered by your homeschooling community. Find your veteran homeschooler. You can pretty much ask them all of these questions, then they probably will be able to answer them. That is why it's so great to have a community, and you can also save yourself some scrolling through the internet time, surfing. Is that what it's? Internet surfing, yeah. Okay. All these points I will type up in my show notes, so you don't have to furiously write them down as I am talking. Point number 1 is, what are your requirements for homeschooling in your state/country? Pretty straightforward. So these include, are there things you can and cannot do? Are there state mandated subjects, etc., etc.? State testing requirements. Most of that has to do with younger students like middle school and elementary school, but it's good to check for that as well. Point number 2 is, what do I need to turn into my education officials for homeschooling? Such as, is there a standard notification I need to send in to tell them I'm in a homeschool? Is there affidavits or medical records? I will go through affidavits in a moment. Number 3, how do I go about withdrawing from my public school? Very big point. Probably one of the most important. Pardon my dog. So yes, make sure you look at that. And then point number 4, look up how homeschooling in high school looks like in your state. So I'm guessing this might be the hardest one to find because I don't know how many researchers, that's the whole reason I started the podcast, is I felt like there was a lack of resources for what it looks like to homeschool in high school. So you might want to find a blog. A lot of parents, even with younger kids, will talk about their high school experience as well. So try to find those. And then while you're at that, you might run across some potential diplomas for your state. Make sure to make note of that, but don't worry about it too much right now. We will go into it later. It's not that important, and that's why I didn't make it its own little step. I mean, obviously diplomas are important, but we'll get to that later when we start talking about evaluations and evaluators and all that fun stuff. Super fun. Please do not get overwhelmed with me here. Stay with me. There is a lot, I know, but if you follow the steps, and number 2, if you follow step number 2, your homeschooling group will do a lot of this stuff for you, and by default, just by being around them or getting to know them, texting them, etc. Yes, and they will be able to do something I cannot do for you, which is go personalized and state by state. If we did state by state, we'd be here for a very, very long time. So that's not something I'm going to do here, and you're probably thanking me for that, or you would be super bored the whole time. And I probably wouldn't get anything else done in my life. And I know in these days we tend to want things to happen very quickly, including me. It's the Instagram, the Instapot, the Insta, lots of Insta stuff. This is not an Insta problem. This is not an Insta homeschooling. That's why it's called a homeschooling journey and not the homeschooling sprint. It takes a little bit. You're going to backtrack sometimes. You're going to go forward. You're going to take a wrong turn. You're going to have to turn around. It's going to be a bit of a process. But we have this beautiful thing called the internet. You could literally type in to the search engine, what are the homeschooling requirements for Idaho or for Wyoming? Enter your state name, enter your country name, and then press the search button, and boom, you'll probably get even more information than you need to. There might be a lot of information, so just stick to the points I gave you. Don't get lost in the information because I know that can be a lot. All right, this is where questions can be really, really important for me. I have been dealing with this stuff since for a long time, let me say that. So it's kind of my life. I might skip over things that seem so obvious to me that I wouldn't remember that there was a time which I didn't understand it. So if you do not understand something or want me to go into further detail, I might even like do a whole episode on something. Please reach out to me and let me know so I can help you the best way that I possibly can. And answer the questions either with an episode or at the end of the episode. I will let you know. I said I was going to try to make this as easy as possible. So I've given you a list of things to research. Now I'm going to take you back to HSLDA because guess what? They also can help you answer this question. Big shocker there. They are pretty amazing. So I'm back on their website, hslda.org. And this is not sponsored, by the way. I probably should mention that. It's how can you not go there immediately for homeschoolers, because it's just amazing. So obviously some of this information, everyone needs money. So they're going to ask you to be a member for some of the research, some of the, information there. So you might have to go somewhere else, which is totally cool. I had to do that a few times when I was trying to research Pennsylvania. But to make it really easy to get a quick overview of your state, bear with me here. Go to the legal tab. So there's the Get Started, Teaching My Kids, and then there's the legal tab. Hover over that one, and you should see 3 things pop up: state homeschool laws, legislation action center, and international. So if you're international, so not in the US, I guess, go ahead and press on that one, and it'll give you a map of the world. They don't have every country, sadly, but they're working on it. But you can hover over any country and press on that and find your homeschooling regulations for your country, at least some of them. But for the rest of you all in the good old United States, please go over to state homeschool laws and press on that, because guess what? They give you a literal map, homeschool laws by state. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen, ever. They color code your state. Who doesn't love color coding stuff? So if you're in a green state, good job. Not good job, but you have it pretty easy. It's low regulation. So you can immediately see what you're getting yourself into from the get-go. Here, light blue is low regulation. Green is like no notice, low regulation. So you don't even have to send a notice in to the education officials. You can just kind of disappear. But then you have the moderate regulation, which is kind of hard. And then you have the good old red state. And if you have noticed already, Pennsylvania is bright red. So for you all in these 5 very complicated New England states, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Yeah, Rhode Island. We're in the top 5 most hardest states to homeschool, and just to show you it's possible, I'm doing this podcast from Pennsylvania, and we are fine. We are doing great. It's a little bit, obviously, you're going to have a little more things to do than someone in Texas or Oklahoma, but, we get it done. We can do it. I think we should have the most homeschoolers in the red states just to, say, we got this. We're going to do this, So we stand together, us in the red states here. Anyway, if you're not in a red state, you're probably not going to have so much research to do, but for the sake of this podcast episode, I'm going to just go ahead and press on my state and just kind of look at that for a second. So looking at this page, what pops up is legal Pennsylvania laws. It gives you Pennsylvania homeschooling laws at a glance. So insert your state name there. And it gives you some things you can literally jot down to answer some of these questions. So it gives you options for homeschooling. There are 4 options in Pennsylvania. School age requirements, 6 to 18 years old. It varies from state to state. Notification required. Teacher qualifications, state-mandated subjects, assessment requirements, and immunization requirements. So for this, the one word I would point out here is notification. I had to look this up, but I had a kind of an idea about what it meant, but I kind of wanted to be more specific for you guys. So according to responsiblehomeschooling.org, a notification notifies, surprising, education officials that a child or student is being homeschooled and may provide additional information as well. So it's just like a formal, hey, I'm going to pull myself out of public school and start homeschooling, just to let them have a heads up where you went, where you disappeared to. So if you're in a green state, I believe you don't have to do that at all. Red states and probably blue states as well need to do it. So just pay attention to that as well. You can probably do some more research into what that would exactly look like for your state, or ask your homeschooling group as well. Teacher qualifications, it's like if your mom needs to have, or your mom and dad, who will be your educators. under, your law, they have to have at least like a high school degree, I believe. That's at least for Pennsylvania. State mandated subjects, yes, we have those. You have to have math, you have to have English, so on and so forth. Assessment requirements, I believe in Pennsylvania you need to be tested 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade. Like I said, again, doesn't really apply to high school, but you can check into that as well. And then immunization requirements. So yes, we do need to send in our shots and some other medical stuff to the education board at the beginning of every school year. And most of this stuff can be taken care of at the beginning of the school year and at the very, very end after you have your evaluation, which we will go into greater detail in the future, I promise. So here is another term you may run across in your studies, especially if, not your studies, you're researching, especially if you're from Pennsylvania. I do not know of any other state that needs this, but I'm going to make a note of it anyway. Affidavit. So we have to send in one of those for Pennsylvania as well. This seems like a lot, but we're coming from a red state, so there's going to be some high regulation here. Most of the stuff will not be applicable for you if you're in a blue state or a green state, but for all you red staters out there, affidavits are they're pretty easy. According to homeschoolingpennsylvania.org, the form can be used to indicate that you will be homeschooled in Pennsylvania. The affidavit must be notarized. So it's pretty much a form that states that you're going to be homeschooled, may add some other information as well, and it must be notarized. So we have to go to the notary every June and get our affidavit notarized and send that into the school board. So that's pretty much what it looks like to live in a red state. It's not too bad. Most of the stuff can be taken care of once a year. So just as soon as you do this research, it will be one and done. So you will never have to research your homeschooling laws again. This is a one and done thing. You will always know that after you research it. So don't get too overwhelmed by this. Note here that you're going to need your parents' support to do this. So they're going to need to sign things, they're going to need to send things, they're going to need to pay for things, etc. If your parents are already on board for homeschooling, that's great. If you're a parent listening, I hope this encourages you as well. But if your parents are not on board right now and you are doing the research on your own, I suggest continuing with this research and doing the research in the following episode, which is going to be about types of homeschooling. So you can make a kind of list and a plan for your parents so that way when you ask them about this, you have, some solid research and some solid planning. So you can answer their questions, you can give them their why and so forth, and you probably will have a better chance of, actually succeeding with this homeschooling journey. Also, very important, this homeschooling, this is a kind of a make or break moment. Homeschooling is going to involve a lot of self-instigated things. This is a self-instigated researching project. No one's grading you. No one's keeping, no, this is not a due date for this task. It is something you're doing on your own. You're researching on your own. So just kind of keep that in the back of your brain. Like, this is kind of homeschooling boot camp or whatever. Even the first steps into homeschooling. It's kind of getting your feet wet in this self-disciplinary actions that homeschooling brings. Here are the main takeaways from today. If you take anything away, take this away. Get plugged into your homeschooling group. Get a notebook or a piece of paper or whatever. Start making a plan. What does homeschooling look like for your state? How do you go about withdrawing from school? What does homeschooling in high school look like for your area? You can use HSLDA to find most of that information and also the good old-fashioned internet. And don't give up. Go find the homeschoolers in your area and don't stop with this podcast. You can do this. I am confident. We are cheering for you. Homeschooling, when done right, is worth it. And you do not have to be perfect. I do not want you to think that you have to know everything, be okay with, got everything figured out before you can start homeschooling. That will never happen. As far as I'm concerned, you will never be prepared enough. I mean, as far as my life has showed me, is that you kind of just have to go for it. For this podcast is an amazing example. I did some solid research before I started this podcast. I needed to know some things. I needed to know a microphone. I needed to know a platform. I needed to know how to record, etc. The basics. But I am still learning every single time I release an episode. But the important thing I learned is that perfection is not your goal, right? It's progress. And every episode I release, I try to do one thing better. Just one thing. Get progressively better towards not perfect, but just, the journey. That's the whole point. It's just your journey. So don't get lost in your research, because there is a lot of information out there. Get your bullet points, get an idea, and then go for it. Don't let this stop you. Let's do a fun thing to end the show. Let's just do a fun thing. Answer a fun question. Who are some famous homeschoolers? And right off the bat, you think about, I don't know who came to my mind. I think I always knew Millie Bobby Brown was homeschooled. But besides that, I didn't really know anyone else. Oh, and I just recently learned that it was it Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell who only had 3 months of formal schooling. Both of them are incredible inventors. I don't remember which one it was. But I think that's all I knew. So getting to research this was pretty fun. 14 of our presidents were homeschooled, including none other than the Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, very first president, Thomas Jefferson, really cool guy as well, Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So pretty cool guys, if I don't say so myself. Taylor Swift was homeschooled, junior and senior high school years. But I thought that was interesting because, she'd taken 2 years of high school, public school, and then dropped out. So, if any of you out there who are seniors and juniors, Taylor Swift did it. You can do it too, I think you'll see a lot with this list. A lot of famous singers and famous actors, Millie Bobby Brown included, and then athletics, or musicians. Anyone who's going to take that professional career as a child usually homeschools. So that's a common theme here. We have continuing on modern day people, we have Tim Tebow, who actually was not homeschooled due to football. He was just homeschooled because that's what his family wanted to do. He's really cool. You should really look him up. American football star. So, Tim Tebow, I think that's the only ones on the list that are still alive. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the Mozart, the one who created all these amazing classical music songs that we still listen to today. So he was homeschooled. What else do we have here? Oh, I mentioned Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, and Thomas Edison, who was a prolific inventor. Movie projector, movie camera, motion picture camera, the phonograph, etc. Over 1,000 patents. Pretty cool guy. Homeschooled as well. So that brings us back to the homeschoolers are weird question we had here. So these are some people who would probably prove that wrong, because I don't think anyone would consider any of those people to be weird. Again, we have some authors here. We have Laura Ingalls Wilder, which, Little House on the Prairie. Robert Frost, famous poet. J.R.R. Tolkien. Forgive me if I'm butchering his name. It's either Tolkien, or Tolkien. I know I heard the correct one, but I cannot remember, so please forgive me. Please forgive me, but he is an incredible author. Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and I know there are many others that he wrote. Louisa May Alcott, Little Women, one of my favorite books. She was homeschooled. I did not know that. Susan B. Anthony, major women's rights activist. Florence Nightingale, who was the founder of modern nursing. So if you're interested in this, I highly suggest you research some more of these people and go into greater detail of their lives, because these were world changers and they were all homeschooled. So that kind of speaks for itself. That is it for this episode. We talked about the second step in the third step in continuing your homeschooling journey. What was it? Plugging in and researching homeschooling in your area, in your state, in your country. So I hope you learned a lot. I hope you are encouraged. Remember, you are not alone. Remember that we are all rooting for you. We want you to find this amazing opportunity. My goal is to make sure that all these challenges all these mountains, all these hills, we can cross them together, and that there's nothing stopping you from experiencing homeschooling. There are so many homeschoolers out there, so many people that came before us. I think it was great that this question came on this episode, because we can look at some people in the past who really changed the world who were homeschooled. So don't let these laws and regulations scare you. Connect with some people, talk about it with them in your area, and that should help you out. So yes, I hope you had fun too. I had fun talking about this. And my email is hshighschoolpodcast@gmail.com. It is written below. So scroll down or link, depending on what platform you're listening to this right now. Scroll down a little, my show notes, because there's going to be a lot of stuff in there today, but you shall find it there, and please email me through there, your questions, your concerns, your comments. If you have an inspiration for an episode, please let me know. I would love to hear from you personally. And then also my Instagram account is linked below, so you can DM me through there and send your questions there as well. I hope you all have a blessed day, blessed week. Enjoy your researching, and I will see you all later. Bye.